be here on tonight. I have a full house of guests with me on tonight. I have Eddie Sheffield visiting with me on tonight.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey. And his lovely wife, L.A. And then we have mine truly, Rashida Birch. She flew in from L.A.
Hey, everybody. How y'all
The
doing?
Sheffields are here from North Carolina. And so we're just going to have a whole good time tonight and just talk about what we talked about. Now, of course, Rashina, I gave birth to her, so that's my special seed, and she's my baby girl. But Eddie Sheffield and L.A., wow, what an encounter. It was around 2011. I was going through a very, very dark place in my life. I was being attacked on my job, and someone on my job thought enough to me to include my name on a prayer call that Eddie was hosting that night. And Eddie said that when Rod said my name, something resonated with him.
That's correct.
And he said that God told him he got to talk to that lady now.
Yeah.
Rod, knowing me, it was about 9 o'clock that night. He told Eddie he wasn't going to get me that night.
Don't call tonight.
So don't call tonight because she goes to bed early. But he ended up calling me the next day. We ended up connecting the next day. And the very first words out of his mouth was, "Woman of God, you have forgotten who you are." And those words were life-changing for me, and it helped me come out of that dark place. And now here we are, fast forward 11, 12 years later,
Yes.
and we are still connected. We are friends. We've done a lot of workshops and coaching sessions together. And it's just nice to have you here on Sheffield. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so when Sheffield heard that we were talking about matters of the mind, he was like, "Paula, we got to get on that conversation because we are always talking about the mind."
Yeah.
And then we also have Rashina here. And Sheena, I remember when I was on my journey, we talked a couple of episodes ago about leaving church. And I started looking at God in a different light. And I just remember Sheena saying, "Mom, now that you're spiritual, we can talk." It's like the relationship changed, and I was now approachable.
Yeah.
And that's how we want to be in life. We want people to know what we believe and want to seek it out, not the hell and brimfire that I once taught. Thank God for deliverance, right? So when I talk about this matters of the mind, Sheffield, what comes to mind for you?
Very first thing, caller, is...
I can't hear it, Mama.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Get to the microphone.
The very first thing that happens to me is the heart.
Yes.
So when you think about the heart, you think about the mind. Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
The mouth speaks.
So if I'm thinking about it, it's already resonating in my heart anyway. It's like when I saw you, heard you, and when your name came across that evening, I knew I had to talk to you.
Right.
Because there's some things in your head that you were wrestling with was not aligned with your heart.
For sure.
And so that was the battle. That was the tug of war that we had to release you from so that you could be free in your mind.
Yes.
So that you begin to soar out of the essence of your heart.
Right.
And
Amen.
I think that word essence became alive to it this
Oh my God, that true essence, their birth, True Essence Ministry, and always talking about the essence of who we are and being that person. And so many. So what about you, LA? When you talk about matters of the mind, what comes to mind for you?
I believe the first thing that comes to my heart first is the identity, who God really has created us to be, and understanding who and what that is, and how that we are His chosen and we are His elect.
Yeah.
And we are truly, truly special to Him. So to have a mindset like that, it takes a moment, because a lot of us are still in a state of mind of thinking that whatever life experience has brought us, we may want to nestle in that space. If it was trauma, someone might want to stay in trauma, and not understanding, no, daughter, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. When I look at you, I said it is good. When I was done with Sheena, I said she's beautiful. No matter what. When I was done with Paul, I said she's beautiful. No matter what.
Right. Amen.
So that's what I think of.
Amen. And last but not least, Miss Rashina Birch, when you hear matters of the mind, the young generation represented right here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
For me, when you say matters of the mind, the first thing that comes to mind is control or power. Because with the mind, you can control or have the power to access anything, you know. So that's the first thing that comes to mind to me when you say matters of the mind.
So how are you using your mind to control your outcome? And that is really, really
that's
good.
really good.
Earlier today, Sheffield and I was talking, and we were talking about. I told him about this is what's in my mind. Just thinking about this mind, because if we get our mind right, then everything else is just going to fall into place. And Sheffield said something that was so profound, like he always do. And what he said was, "What are you thinking? Are you thinking?" Talk about that, Eddie.
I think it's aligned with what she was saying about the control, right? Who's controlling your mind? And if I don't know who's controlling my mind, then how do I know what I'm thinking about, where I'm going, who am I going to be, if I don't know who's controlling my mind, right? And so at the matters of that is, I really need to be still and find out who's controlling my thoughts and where did I get that thought from.
That's good, Sheffield, because who is controlling your mind?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that takes me back to one of the many books that I've read. But the one that always comes up is the Four Agreement. And in the first part of that book, chapter 1, he talks about we are born into a dream, to somebody else's dream, and then we buy it. And that is so true, that people tell us how to think. And when you think a thought outside of the norm, then something is wrong with you, right? And so then we spend a whole lifetime casting down thoughts that was really meant to help us to, it's that new idea, it's that new fresh thought, it's that thing that's going to deliver and set us free. But because it's outside of the norm, we give up our power and we don't talk about that thing because it don't fit into the norm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anybody, y'all jump in when y'all want to jump in. You know what I'm saying?
Well, on that note, I'm hearing, the road, it can be wide and then it can be narrow. And then choosing the narrow road is not always the norm.
The norm. And the thing about it, so many people think they're on a narrow road.
Come on.
But they don't know who's controlling their thoughts.
But they don't know who controls their thoughts.
I think it's important when you think about that as an artist, a creator, and you're creating new opportunities for people through the screen, through the film, through the podcast, whatever you're doing, you have the opportunity to control a thought in someone's mind, whether it's righteous or unrighteous.
Wow, that's true. And you think about, okay, you go back, now my mind just, it was Jim Jones?
Okay.
Jim Jones?
Yes.
How he was able to control how people thought.
Come on.
To the point of death.
Yep.
January 6th last year,
Mine.
2 years, whatever it was.
Yes.
That the thought process, you put an idea out there and people believe that out there, and now they're no longer thinking with their mind. But if we start going back thinking, just being free, we don't even understand the power that's in our mind, Sheena. What's the power that's in your mind? What does your mind have the power to do?
Well, your mind has the power to do anything. I like to identify myself as a free thinker.
She's so serious.
And for me, like being a free thinker, it takes a lot of work, because if we are realistic about it, we are trained to behave and think and perform a certain way from birth.
Absolutely.
Sit still, don't ask for this. When we're trained in that capacity, and then in that training, and then the love that you grow for your parents and not wanting to disappoint them or uphold their expectations really becomes a lot of bondage. My mother is a Christian, my father is a Muslim, and I want to respect their religions, although I don't fully connect or fully believe exactly the way they believe, but I don't want to disappoint them. So we limit our thinking, because we're afraid of the outcome. But when you allow yourself to be free and freely think, then you begin to explore and discover parts of yourself. Once you learn to control your mind, then you begin to access your power. And when I say controlling your mind, we're also bombarded with so much negativity that it's easy for your mind to consistently think on negative paths or negative moments. Whereas if I control those negative thoughts, then I can allow for positive or enlightening thoughts to come forth. And then you really realize the power that you actually have, because whether you think you do or whether you think you don't, either way, you're accessing power. It could be power for bad, or your power is bringing more negativity into your life, or either your power is going to flourish things that you actually desire. So the mind is powerful,
So Sheena, I think when Tony was on a couple of weeks ago, what we were talking about is that we create every outcome that's happening in our life. Whether we believe we do or not, we're creating it. And I remember having a coaching client, and we had a session that was scheduled, and she couldn't make it to her session because she had a car accident. And out of nowhere, my spirit says, "How did you create that car accident?" And she says, what? I didn't create this accident. I said, no, you created that accident. Tell me how you created it. I said, just think about it. You may not know right now, but just think about it. You created that accident.
Mm-hmm.
She called me back in about 10 minutes and says, oh, my God, I did create that accident.
Mm.
I said, okay, what happened? She says, on her way to work that day,
Mm-hmm.
she saw a lady, someone driving with the bumper off their car where they had an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the bumper tied onto the car.
Right.
And so the thought that she had in her mind was, I'm grateful that I have car insurance so that if I have an accident, I don't have to drive around with my bumper tied to my car.
The power of creative
The
thought.
power of creative thought. And guess what happened?
Manifest.
She had an accident, and guess what got knocked off?
Her
The
bumper.
Her bumper.
Yeah.
So not only did she create what she thought, she created an opportunity to use that what she was grateful for.
Correct.
So she was grateful for her insurance, so she got a chance to put it into use. But it all started with her thoughts.
Was she grateful when the insurance bill went up?
She probably did. I got to circle back and ask her. What are your thoughts about that?
I just think the creative power of the mind, right? The matter that she created through the course of the ether of her mind that framed that accident because what she saw, right?
Right.
And I think because we don't believe, as you were talking about earlier with, Tony about, we don't believe that we're creators because we've been conditioned to think what somebody else has programmed us to think. It's like when you go home every day, you go watch your favorite,
TV show?
right? And what's that called?
Television.
Yeah, program.
Television.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a vision.
I'm gonna tell live vision. But
Television.
the programming
Television.
gets you to go there every time at 7 o'clock. You're going to be there for the news, or you're going to be there for whatever it is, but you've already been programmed to position your body to be there to watch that favorite program. So unbeknownst to you, daily, you've already set the program up and remind you, just like the podcast reminded me today that, hey, 7 o'clock, but I'm already positioned because I went beyond my podcast. I'm literally here to be here with you
Right.
because I transformed my mind to be from Charlotte to Atlanta.
Yes.
But it was already etched in my mind to be at this particular time.
Right.
Program. Well, who programmed that? You did, Paul.
Yeah.
Because
'Cause
you
I
asked
called
me.
and I asked you, right.
You asked me to do that. So you have power and creativity with your tongue.
Oh, wow. And that's the truth.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really, really good, Sheffield, because the power of life and death, we know this in our tongue. But you speak a thing and it becomes,
That's right.
right? And so you said that who created that? When you think about, we have two gates in which we receive information.
Okay.
The eye gate and the ear gate, right? So what we are seeing, what we are hearing is now programming thoughts into our mind. Now, Sheena don't like when I tell this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. The eye gate is so important. And so when the kids were younger, I was very particular about what I wanted them to watch on TV. And certain shows I just did not like. Now, me and their dad didn't always see eye to eye on that. So one day they got to watch the picture screen. She don't like me to tell this story. I'm gonna keep this. Yeah. So they wanted to watch Scream, and they watched it. They stayed up with their dad watching Scream. The next day, I got up. At this time, Robert and I had to leave the house before they left for school, right? And so Kenyatta used to come over and drop her kids off or something. But anyway, when we left, Trey and Sheena got into an argument. And Sheena pulled out a knife and started tracing her brother with the knife.
Now be clear, it was a butter
It
knife.
was a butter knife, but all the same, it was a knife. But where did she get the idea of chasing somebody
Right.
with a knife? It started with what her eyes received.
Right.
And then that thought about how I can take care of you became. Now, thank God she hadn't put a knife on nobody else. Butter knife and all, it doesn't matter. But
Right.
but at that point, it was a teaching moment for me to talk to Robert at the time and say, hey, you got to make sure that we monitor what comes into our eyes. We have to monitor what we're hearing, because what we see and what we hear become thoughts, and those thoughts left unchecked turn to feelings. Those feelings not dealt with lead to behavior.
Yeah. But another thing about that particular opportunity it led her to the field that she's in right now, if you think about it.
The acting.
I'm just saying, right?
All roads love to acting for Sheena, I tell you.
So the creativity was birthed.
Oh my goodness, from birth, for real.
Right. It was birthed, but she never stopped finessing,
Yeah.
fine-tuning, and creating her gift.
So what you're saying, Ed, is everything has purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
Everything works for our good, the good,
Absolutely.
bad, and the other. So even when we make bad decisions, even when we act out on negative thought, don't beat ourselves up about it,
Correct.
but to look for the good in it, because there is good in it. But to make sure you look for good in it too,
Absolutely.
and make sure you turn it into good,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, that's where you come in, though.
Yeah.
That's where the parenting come in.
Yeah,
Right.
but-
You didn't allow the gift to get too far on the other side.
Right.
You brought her into the space. She began to work on the gift,
Mm-hmm.
and now she's manifesting to the place of being it now.
And so, Eddie, what do you say to our audience who doesn't have a background in acting, who's allowing stuff from their ear gates and our eye gates, who to control or manipulate them, who doesn't have Paula Jackson as a parent? What would you say to people who are allowing thoughts to take root in their mind based on what they see and what they hear?
The very first thing I say, listen to this podcast. over and over and over again. But no, there's a lot of tools out here for people to find the peace, right? But the most important thing is the peace is on the inside of you. See, if you keep looking for stuff externally, you'll never find it. But you have to identify who you are within and then seek internally to get to the eternal to align you where you need to be. If I keep focusing externally, I'll never find my true identity.
Absolutely. Nothing happens outside of you.
That's correct.
Was it you, Sheena, who said that we don't understand we have creative power?
I don't know if it was me who said that, but
Well,
I
somebody
agree with
said
that
that,
statement.
that we don't know. That I think you said you need to be paying attention to the words that come out of your own mouth. Okay.
You
So
know,
we-
I did want to interject,
Okay.
Paula, in one point where you were saying about how it would lead to, the ear gate, the eye gate, and how it's leading to like a thought and then emotion, and then you said behavior.
Yes.
Immediately, I
Yes.
just kept hearing, can it be a healthy behavior?
And more than like,
You know what I'm saying?
it depends
The-
on that thought, right?
Exactly.
Because if that thought is a negative thought, then the behavior more than likely be negative
Or
behavior.
negative behavior.
If
absolutely.
that thought is not checked and
Right.
dealt with, right?
Because I was thinking about when you were saying the parent
Right.
who was actually putting it in a space and in a proper perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which is bringing it into a space of what I need to make this healthy. Because down the road in her life, I need this emotion to turn into something that's going to benefit for her, not be a negative, but be a positive. So now we got a birthing of what? All the creativity that's on the inside of her.
No
In
limits.
this, exactly, no limits, free thinking,
Right. Right.
healthy.
Right. And stay in that space. So no matter what it looks like, but as parents, we do have to, when we see it, we have to address it,
Sure. Yes.
But don't condemn it, though.
but don't condemn it.
Right, right.
Talk about it,
Yeah.
teach about it,
Right.
and then move from it
And give them the tools to grow.
to advance
Yeah.
in it.
Absolutely.
But when we talk about creative, we are creators. We have to be creators. And I don't know what people's faith level is. Mine's, I believe in the creator, that God created the heavens and the earth, I believe. I believe that when the scripture says that we were created in the image and the likeness of God, I really do believe that. So, and God said, let there be light, and there was. Which says that whatever I say, I can have. I remember, Sheffield, not too long ago, you called me, maybe about 3 years ago, you called me and said, Paula, I was praying for you. And the Father said, be careful of the words that come out of your mouth, because everything that you come out of your mouth will manifest. You remember telling me that? Lord, and sometimes I'm like, okay, Lord, I ain't mean that. I was just playing. So when some words come out of my mouth that I don't really mean, because sometimes that creative power is there, whether we believe it or not. So,
But the conditioning, right? So if you put a seed in the ground and the ground is contaminated, you're going to produce contaminated fruit, right?
Right.
And so what happens is it's important with the matters of the mind and the matters of the heart that you go do the pruning. You go do the pull up all those weeds. And that weed can
and
become a
it's so
stronghold. and a
many
stumbling block.
weeds.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so many weeds. But you talked about the internal thing. And I think the reason we're not dealing with our weeds because we keep blaming everybody else. It's your fault that I got these weeds. But my weeds are my weeds.
Yeah.
And I got to dig up my own weeds.
Absolutely.
And Tony and I, we talk about, just yesterday, we were talking about, we got all of these principles. We got to start living them. You know, we've been on this journey for so long. We've got, and what we're talking about is controlling this mind and not allowing words to come out of our mouth that we don't need,
Right.
and to start talking in present, start talking and thinking right now. I remember when you was in college, or were you in high school, when you needed some dresses, and we started talking
That
about
was my off year.
yeah.
That was my off year. When I stopped school for a year.
Okay,
to-
what did you need those dresses for?
So I had an audition,
Talk
and
about
so this is kind of when we first start doing like manifestation and stuff like that. So I was reading a book at the time that was basically saying change your thought, because sometimes you can have a
The law
counter.
of attraction.
a-
That's what
you
read,
can
the law
have
of
a
attraction,
you can have a counter thought. So like I might say like, oh, I have a 6-pack, but then I'll have a thought right after that like, but you don't. You know what I'm saying? So it's counterintuitive. So it kind of like cancels itself out. So in the book, it was saying speak things in a manner in which all thoughts can agree. So I would say, instead of saying I have a 6-pack, I would say I love the idea of me having a 6-pack. And then the thought behind it is, yeah, I love that idea. You know what I'm saying? And so everything is in kind of in agreement with
Right.
what you're actually wanting. And so this was back when I was financially, how can I say this accurately? Financially having hardships.
Challenge. Just financial
Financially
challenge.
challenged. That's the word.
Yeah, just a little
And
challenge.
I want to
She
say
wasn't much.
I'm always big on like budgeting. So I'm like, I'm looking at my account. I'm like, okay, well, I can spare about $50. Okay. And so the role for the callback in the scene,
Oh,
the
that's
girl is wearing a cocktail dress. And I didn't own any cocktail dresses. So I'm like, I love the idea of me finding a cocktail dress for $50.
At Macy's.
And I love the idea. And I said that for a few times, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, went to Macy's and go to the cocktail dresses. Not a single dress over there, $25. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll just overdraft, pay this little $35 later,
No, she had my credit card.
And so I had the 2 dresses or whatever, went and tried them on to see which would fit the best. And of those 2, I would just proceed forward with that. But one was maybe like $75, the other one was like $125. Tried them on, so I'm like, okay, well, let me just take them both to the register to see if maybe there's a sale or a discount or anything. So I get to the register, and the lady's like, oh, today we're actually having a 1-day sale. Macy's is really good for their 1-day sales. Like, we're having a 1-day sale. So she scans the discount thing. She's like, oh, this dress is actually on sale today for $24.99. And I'm like, what? And so then she scans the second dress, and she was like, oh, this one is on sale today for $24.99 as well. And I'm like, both of them are on sale for $20. This was my like very first time of like manifesting something like direct. So my mind was like blown. And so I ended up getting both dresses.
The matter was already created in your mind.
Yeah.
And the power was when you activated it and it showed up,
Yeah.
right? Matters of the mind.
Matters of the mind.
Yeah.
Matters of the mind. What you think about, you bring about. So what are you thinking?
Yeah.
What are you thinking, LA? What's in your thoughts? LA, can I put you on the spot? Because that's what I do. It's my podcast. I can
You
if I
could do
want
whatever
to.
you want on your podcast. That is so good, Paula. That is so good. What am I thinking? I'm mostly thinking about vision that God has placed inside of me. And that Shayna, like you, it's manifesting, and it's manifesting so quickly. I don't have time to have. I mean, I really haven't had time to have that moment where I sat down and said, "Oh," because my mouth said, "I own a $1 billion business that is happening."
Yeah.
And I just say, "Okay." I don't even. I don't flinch. I didn't flinch about it. I just said, "Okay," and then I just, honestly, Paul, I just got in the flow. I just got in the flow. Even when things, somebody would say, "Oh, well, that looks a little," I wouldn't even agree to it. I said, "No, it's just God doing something. I'm doing a pivot right now. I'm making a change, and whatever change He's telling me to go, I'll just do the change. I don't ask any questions. I don't ask how. I don't ask what. I don't ask when. I don't ask where. I just say, I'm doing it. I'm being exactly what He told me to be. I am a $1 billion business owner.
Awesome.
Period.
Periods, point blank, end
Period.
of story, right? Right.
Exactly.
Right. We talked about matters of the mind. And, this season, in season 2, we're actually doing different talks about our mind impacts us socially, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, financially. And so we were talking about what I would like to do, what my passion is just to change the way we think and to just pay attention to what we're thinking so that the things that we're talking about tonight, that we can start being intentional about the life that we live, right? And you all know that in 2017, I resigned from CDC. I'm tired of this, I ain't doing it no more. And I didn't have a clue of what my life was going to look like, because for my whole entire life, I was used to a 9 to 5. But the scripture, I was at that mountain too long. And it was starting to impact my health. I wasn't sleeping. I was getting all kind of crazy diagnoses. And then I took that leap of faith and I left that job. And I did not think, I did not say, I did not care about the paycheck. And what I learned is, because I control my destiny, right? It wasn't that place of employment that I had.
Right.
Cities, we say all the time, my job is not my source. God is my source.
Right.
But that was an opportunity for me to really start thinking about and allowing God to be my thought. And that's when I started introducing Sheena and everybody to those books about being intentional about your thoughts, manifesting by the law. Because there's some spiritual laws. If we learned and understood spiritual laws, we would not be in a lot of the situations that we are. And of course, the law of attraction, you attract what you think about, you bring about. And if we can get people to start thinking about that,
Right.
they'll start thinking about their thoughts.
Right.
And then when you have it, because you can't control the thoughts that come in your mind. You can't control them, right? You can't control whether you let them stay there, though. A thought will come. You're like, where did that thought come from? You know what? That's what I watched on TV last night. Oh, I listened to this conversation. They're coming from somewhere.
Right.
But when they come, you don't have to let them stay there.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I was thinking about the leap that you took. It was a process of being certain about it, though.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have ideas, but they never get certain about that idea.
Yeah.
To leave my job. And when you're certain about it, then you'll take specific steps to walk away from it. A lot of times you're listening to people, and you're watching all this stuff on IG and Facebook and all this stuff in social media.
I think that's why I stayed there so long, because my grandmother used to tell me, girl, don't you leave that good government job.
Yeah, but that was already programmed. That was hardwired into your brain, though, from grandma.
Yeah.
But the point is, the elevation was coming within your spirit. That was the creativity that was in you that says, okay, there's something that you need to do. You got to close that chapter. But the question was, I need to be certain about this move to walk away from a 6-7 figure job, right? And then what happens is the certainty in your heart, though, becomes a matter of your thought process. And then you begin to attract the books to you that you begin to read.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right? And
for
then
sure.
you prepared yourself because you were certain about, I'm exiting out of this space. A lot of time in business, most people have an exit strategy, but we don't have an exit strategy in life. Most people are afraid to die, but they don't want to live, right? They're not certain about it.
Right,
so,
right.
So it's a matter of the mind, but we have to get certain about what that look like and paint that creative picture like, this is the outcome. But are you true about that? Are you certain about that? Or are you going to waver when you hear that next person talk?
And I really had to block people out.
Correct.
It couldn't matter. I couldn't, because it was just noise. It was just outside noise. I know what I was feeling. I did not know. And it was a leap of faith.
Right.
Because I just got my license to be a real estate agent. I know nothing about selling the houses. You know, I did not know. But I did know that I couldn't do what I was doing anymore. Right. So I just started thinking different thoughts. I started doing, and I don't think we called them savers at that time, but I started sitting in silence and getting centered with myself to see, what is it, Paula? What is going on with you? Why are you thinking that thought? Why are you feeling this? Doing what they would call emotional intelligence to get in touch with me and in tune with me. I started affirming the things that I want. We started the I am. We talk about that, Sheriff. I'm going to let you talk about that I am in a minute. We started talking about the I am principle and everything that follows that you become. And so start affirming who you are and make sure that you use that word, because I am is a very powerful statement. And so then we start visualizing. I start seeing myself walk away from that job. I start seeing myself selling houses, and I hadn't sold the first one yet. I start seeing my bank account growing, right? And then you know, I started going back to exercising. And we don't understand how exercising the body helps the brain, helps the thought process. So I started going back to exercising. And then I start reading all of these different books that I was led to read, and then start journaling, right? Yeah. And so when I got to that point of walking, it wasn't even a thought. I didn't even think about it. I just heard in the spirit, do it now. I did it.
Yeah.
Then,
I remember something, Paula, that your mother told you. I heard.
Oh man, you always bring up stuff.
28 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. My
Yeah,
mama
so-
had told me, girl, you need to sell a house. You need to sell the real estate. I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it,
Couldn't see it, but the seed
It was already
but
planted.
it was already
is
there.
already planted.
She mama has manifest that, didn't she?
So
Yeah.
I had a question for you, Paula. A good question. You said your grandmama said about a job, right? I have a question. Did you ever say something like that to Shayna or Trey?
You know what? Actually, I would take what?
Let's see how this you gonna respond to this
Okay,
one. That's fine.
I've always wanted them to follow their dreams, and I've said to them over and over again, y'all got to find something you're gonna do because a 9 to 5 not gonna work for y'all. Have I not said that? A regular 9 to 5. Now, when Rashina is in my pocket all the time,
Past
and
tense.
that thing
Was.
and that thing that she wants to do is costing me money, I'm like, girl, you need to go get a job. Now, I don't ever want them to be somewhere where they're not happy, even now, you know, and we're always challenging them to find your dream. Sheena, when she wanted to move to LA,
Challenged me to
I
follow.
challenged. I did. I made her think because it's a different from living in Georgia and living in LA. And I told Sheena, what do you think you can pay for your rent? What's rent going to be? And she looked at what the cost of rent would be. And I was like, well, you need to be selling. You need to at least be saving that. But not just the rent. You got to also save money for the light and the gas and all the other essential stuff. So if you can put that stuff away, because she was staying with Tony and I at the time. And as we still made her pay us rent and stuff because the world ain't free.
That's something.
However,
That's another podcast for another day.
we made her pay, but we really just saying that because we need her money. But it's about teaching her to be responsible.
Sure.
And so Sheena kept coming back and saying, "I don't have the money. I just don't make enough. I don't make enough." Remember this, Tony? And I'm like, So Tony and I got her. We sat her down and we told her, "Okay, well, how much money do you bring in?" She gave us the money. Okay, so how much money do you pay out? And she showed us. We're like, "Okay, well, you got this amount left. Where is it?" She's like, "Mom, I know that ain't right. That's not right." But see, that card, if you're not paying attention to what you swipe, it's called a swipe. That swipe would get you in trouble. And so when we showed her that she was losing probably like $1,100, I can't remember a lot, but it was a huge number that she was losing every month. So we challenged her that if you want to go to LA, we told her, hey, how much you had to save? $10,000. $10,000. Save at least $10,000. And then, of course, we will help you whatever you need. But at least show us that you can save, because that would be 3 months of rent right there.
And I
And
did save the $10,000.
She
by the way.
saved $10,000. She did.
But I will say is with my line of work, so I never really worked a 9 to 5. Like from a young age, I kind of knew like this is my gift. Like my mom made us try everything, and once I tried acting, I'm like, oh, this is it. I don't need to go any further. There's something that my heart connects with in this, and this is what I want to do. So I started pursuing that immediately. Went to college. After college, I was a waitress for maybe like 6 months, and then I got my first gig onto film and television. Like the way that film and television works is most jobs is gigs. We're considered freelancers, meaning like I'm contracted to do this job. Once this job is done, you better hope it's another job coming around. And I definitely feel like people in our industry, even when it comes to acting, we go on 1,000 auditions, and of that 1,000 auditions, I may only get 3 callbacks. And of those 3 callbacks, I may not book any of them, or I may book 1. So if you don't have control over your mind, it can send you into depression. It can have you questioning your skills. It can have you questioning your gifts. So you have to be solidified in who you are. I am. And also, too, trusting for me personally, I just feel like, oh, this is not the one. Oh, but when the one that's coming, it's going to be bigger than this one, So like controlling your mind and controlling your mindset. And also, so for me, I got my first gig in like 2013. So we're talking about over a decade now where I've been freelancing, so being able to sustain and live and travel and do all the things just based off of that. But when anybody's like, well, what you doing next? I'm like, oh, I don't know, but it'll be something. And by the time a job is ending, without a shadow of a doubt, there's multiple opportunities. And then I have to call my mom, like, Mom,
What they gotta do?
I don't know what to do, because my option is, do I go work on this show with Kevin Hart? Do I go work on this show with Angela Bassett? Or do I go out of town and work with Morris Chestnut? Like those are my decisions. This is not me trying to flex. It's just
It's the truth.
it's just my life.
It's the truth. It's the truth. It's okay.
It's just the life that I live.
Absolutely.
But those are decisions that I'm now faced, and this is all work opportunities, And 2 weeks ago, I didn't have any of those on the table,
Right.
but I'm 3 weeks out from ending my job, and then these are the opportunities that roll in. But I do think that it's attributed to my mindset, because I know that there are a lot of people in film and television, especially people that I went to school with, that aren't in that they don't have that experience. They may go 6 months without working. And I'm like, well, what you thinking about?
Right.
What are you bringing to yourself? You know what I'm saying? I feel like whenever a job is done, I already know a job is coming, whether I see it, whether I know it, whether somebody asks or not. So mindset is definitely important.
But it also goes back to your definition, at the beginning was the programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the program you just said to us that I didn't have a 9 to 5. I always
Right,
freelance.
Mm-hmm.
So all your life, you've been conditioning yourself for the opportunity.
Yeah,
It's your reality, right?
Yeah.
So you're living your story every single day,
that's true.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So now here we are, and expanding your mind now
Mm-hmm.
to when you finish this opportunity, what do you truly desire?
Yeah.
Let's be certain about that now,
Yeah.
right? Because you've already tasted that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like, hey, I see multiple streams of opportunity
Yeah.
happening because you've already put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
And it is work. And since Sheena doing all this talk,
Yes.
there are times though, Sheena, because at the end of the day, we all four of us know that it sounds good. Everything we talking sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the reality, when the application, when we have to put, because sometimes it's not always, Sheffield, I don't have some moments like, you know what?
Yeah.
You need to have somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's of the same mindset
Mm-hmm.
that when you do fall into that humanness,
Right.
Yeah.
they can they can pull you up.
Yeah.
I know you've been that for me. I've been that for you in LA and Sheena. So let's talk about that. So when people are struggling with that, what do they need to surround themselves with?
A lot of people say this all the time, like-minded believers, right? Like-minded believers. But if you listen to the people that you think are like-minded
Oh
believers,
my goodness.
they're not like-minded believers or where you are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't believe what I believe.
So what I always say, let's go internal.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into that inner voice and listen to that I am. Listen to that calm, still voice and say, okay, what is the Most High saying?
Yeah.
Because I'm listening to all this noise out here externally, but can I be still in the presence of the Most High and close the room, shut the light out, and be still? And then I can target like who's controlling my mind, who's controlling my ideas. And now I figure out who it is. Now I can call Paul and say, this is the original idea that I have.
Right.
Because I've already sifted through all the stuff. You
Right.
know when Mom used to make those biscuits back in the day, and she put that flour through and she sifted,
Right.
and she get those little chunks. You didn't even see them chunks
Right.
in the flour.
No.
But we don't want to sift it.
Right.
We don't want to sift it because we like those rough biscuits, those microwave stuff. No, when you sift through it, you get to that pure flour, sweet buttermilk biscuits.
Make you
Oh, my
hungry. Didn't I
goodness,
tell you I
right.
had no dinner?
I know. We having spiritual food right now. So that's the work that we need to talk about and open people up to being in the process. Everybody talk about the process, but they never give us the proper instructions to get to the source, to get to that answer, because everybody don't have that same
And
process.
so tonight we've really dropped some nuggets, and I hope that people are catching it. To control your mind, there you got to look at what you're letting into your ear great, your eye great. You got to recognize that you have power. What?
I was going to say one thing, because you did say we do talk about high moments, but I would say like this period that I'm in right now could be a low moment. And for some people in my business, it is a low moment. I don't know. A lot of you may or may not know, but there's a writer's strike happening right now. And all of Hollywood is shut down.
Right.
Now, mind you, I was working on a movie a few weeks ago. We got shut down for the writer's strike. And we don't know when we're going to go back to work. So I can allow that uncertainty to be like, go into panic mode. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I don't know when I'm going to go back to work. I'm moving on Monday into a new place. Like, I can allow myself to kind of like freak out or to go into a negative space. Or I can say, like for me personally, what I'm choosing to do, because there was a period where if money is starting to get low, or if I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm ending this job in 3 days and I haven't heard nothing, where I would go into a state of panic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, bills ain't gonna stop because the writers decided to strike. So what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? But in the space that I'm in now, well, for one, it's also too like, God, I trust you.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
cool, God, I trust you. And instead of me looking at it from a perspective of my mindset of, well, if I was working, I could do this and do that while I'm moving, I'm now like, oh, thank you, God, because now I can just move. I don't have to worry about working and moving all at the same time. I don't have to, I can come. I wasn't planning on coming home because I have been working all year, haven't been home since Christmas. So now I'm like, okay, well, thank you, God. Now I got time to fly home and see my family and spend time with them. But it's also, too, the mindset and the perspective. And, of course, if you listen to people around us that are not spiritual, like our unions are like, don't spend any money, don't travel, don't do, like, they really are kind of like, stand still because we don't know how long this could be. And the last writer strike, a lot of people lost houses and a lot of people did all of that. So if that's the type of stuff that you're feeding your mind, then that's going to be the state that you're in. But when you have people around you that can be like, child, this is a time for you to connect with yourself, to go deeper with yourself, to spend some time in spirituality, spend some time with your family. This is the time to take a vacation because you don't have to worry about getting right back into work after you finish, So that just goes back to like controlling your mind. But I did want to say, like, there aren't always moments where things are happening because things like this do happen. And you do have to still control, how do I respond to this? What am I choosing to see? And like you said, find something good in it.
Right. Find the good in it.
Find the good in,
Right,
in
find
all
the
the
good.
things.
And that leads me to think about not being present. Because the union is not present. They're talking about how long it's going to be. Well, right now it ain't even happened.
Oh, it's
Right now, I'm just saying when they was telling y'all that. Well, it's happening now, but I'm not losing my house right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I'm not hungry right now.
Right.
When we learn how to stay in the moment, stay present right here in this moment, nothing ever happens outside of the now. Right? So if you're thinking about something that may happen, but is it happening right now?
Come on, yeah.
So in the space that you in, think another thought.
Yeah.
Think another thought. Don't let the union control your thought process. For those who are in Hollywood shutting down, y'all got this. Think another thought. Hey, rather than waiting on somebody to create opportunity, create your own. You don't have, show Hollywood, okay? Y'all got the talent. Without y'all, there is no Hollywood, right? So whatever that is, whatever that space is, when doors close, then look for an opportunity to open. Kick your own door open, right? Right.
No, we were talking about how, talking about Sheena today, is that Sheena have opportunity, that she has other gifts,
Yeah.
right? So this
Oh,
is
you
an
think?
opportunity to tap into your other gifts.
Yeah.
I
Right?
was telling
Whether it's
about your
creativity,
painting.
whether it's painting, whether it's writing, whatever it may be, maybe there's a pause in the big picture for you to activate that thing that's sitting there that's been dormant for a while, that the Father's saying, I have something ready for you, but you got to prepare now.
Yeah.
Right
If
now.
I'm in the now, while there's a lull on this side, I'm turning this other gift up.
Yeah.
I'm calling it to be
You know what I
this
just
side.
thought about, right?
No, I don't.
Joseph. Joseph.
No, I don't.
Joseph.
Right,
Look, famine is coming.
right,
Store up.
correct.
Pair up.
Yeah.
For 7 years of plenty, then that's be 7 year lack. What are you doing in the plenty so that when the lack comes, you're prepared? And that's a word for all of us.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever's happening right now is happening, but what are you doing? What are you planning?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
This is some good stuff.
No, it's funny because I was talking to King Jackson today about
King Jackson.
about how we begin to prepare for the latter part of the season, being a businessman. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And so a lot of times we weren't taught those principles. We were always living based on somebody else's historicals. We're just telling our sister like, oh, this what happened in the last strike. No, that's not happening.
Ain't
This
got
strike.
nothing to do with me, right?
There's something happening right now for me and for those who understand the timing of it, right? And so if we don't know the time in the season, then we miss the opportunity.
Yeah.
So we're stuck based on old historical
Looking back.
information,
Looking back.
not in
Looking
the now,
back.
not being
Not
present,
being present.
not being open
Right.
to hear what is new,
Right.
because of the condition of your spine, the condition of your neurological system is stuck on the old. And we
Look,
miss the season.
looking at the rear view, focusing on the rear view mirror rather than the big open.
Right, absolutely.
What's ahead of you? What's happening right now in you? You know, when you were talking a moment ago, I thought about my dad. And I thought about you saying people don't even know what they believe, and, and I remember, we talked about this all the time, Paul Jones being the daddy of truth. And again, saying whatever you do, focus on truth, right? Seek your truth. What is your truth? And it's going to be highly impossible for people to discover their truth if they haven't discovered how to think for themselves. So because whatever somebody else told you, and oh my God, especially in the world of Google, internet, social media.
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Wikipedia.
It's this world systems.
It's the world system.
systems.
And that, I mean, it's okay
Systems.
to research and find something, but then like get in that quiet space and say, what is this for me? What does this mean for me?
Right.
Is this stuff for me? So we're down to the last 8 minutes of our podcast. So I want to give each one of you an opportunity to start to what is, if it's one thing that you want to leave our listening audience with, what would that be? And LA, we'll start with you.
I will go with knowing who you are and knowing what your truth is.
Knowing who you are.
And
That's-
knowing what your truth is.
Okay. That's all? You want to expound on it? That's it?
Yep, that's
Okay. Go ahead.
Cool. Hey, listen. The question up front was matters of the mind,
Mind,
yeah.
matters of the heart. The only way you get to the answer of that, I think, one of the ways you can do that is learning how to listen.
Yes.
Right? Now, how do we listen? That's the key question.
Go ahead.
Right?
Go ahead.
And so
Unscramble
you
it.
can't listen unless you become silent. Right? And so we enlist in everybody else's process, but we never enlist in the system that's within us. Always going back to the source, right? So in order to listen, you must be SILENT, which is the same word as listen. But nobody want to be still long enough to listen to that sound, slow, quiet voice because of all the noise. So, and we want to get to the consciousness of what we're talking about tonight. Is your consciousness need to be in this space.
Yes.
Your spirit need to be in this space. Your
Yes.
mind need to be in this space,
Yes.
right? Your cellular level need to be in this
Yes.
space. Your liver need to be in this space,
Yes.
right? Tell everything else, be quiet
Line
now.
up.
I need you to line up because I want to hear what the spirit is saying. I want to hear what the now moment is saying to us, so that Sheena won't get back to LA and be in a panic.
Right.
Why? Because all the environment is in panic. So what she did, she set herself apart and came home
Right.
to reset,
The
Ah.
1000%.
to get back in alignment with the principles that she learned back in the
Yes.
state of Georgia.
How about
So when
that?
she get back to the bear state,
How about that?
she'd be bearish, you know?
Right.
That's my
That's good
thoughts.
stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I had a question for you, and you just gave me so many nuggets. I just lost the thought. Wow. Also, no. So Sheffield, when people are when they're hearing that outside noise or when the thoughts comes in, how do they silence that thought?
There's a couple things. I can renounce or denounce the thought, or I can cast down that thought.
Right.
Right. But the most important thing is get to a quiet place.
Yeah.
Get to the place and be still. And when you get to the place and be still, you allow the I am to come in and start speaking to you.
Amen. How
That's
about
as simple
that?
as that. Yeah.
Yay, good
Yeah.
stuff. All right, Sheena, what about you?
What
Sorry,
was the
move
question
back
again?
around. What is the one thing that you would like to leave your listening audience tonight?
One thing I would like to leave the listening audience with tonight is stay true to yourself. You know, like whatever thoughts that you have that resonate the most with your heart, trust those. If they conflict with anybody, it doesn't matter. You know, just follow the path that feels right and feel good to you, and take the time to know yourself, because what we don't really realize a whole lot is that we too contribute to a lot of the thoughts that we have and the conditions and the mindset that we have, whether it's programming or stuff that we've seen. We have the power and the control to change it. So once you pay attention to yourself, like something that I do is just like, okay, now why am I responding this way? Like why is that my reason to react that way? And my mama like to say that I got a lot of stuff from her, but I do want y'all to know that I'm the real
I'd be so proud when I see
teacher.
that she's listening. I just be so proud.
I'm the real teacher, and I just let her shine because
Right,
that's
right.
the lane in which she needs to shine. But I'll continue to feed her information to give to you guys. Thank you.
That's good.
I just be so
You can
proud.
tell the tree by the fruit of
By
bears.
the fruit of
right?
bears.
I'm just saying, Mom. Yeah, yeah.
I just get so proud when I hear you be listening, girl. That is, my talking is not in vain. How about it? But that has been, we also actually have 3 more minutes yet. But so we thank you guys for joining us on tonight. It has been amazing. Thank you, LA. Thank you, Sheffield. Thank you, Rashina,
Yeah.
for joining us on this podcast tonight and talking to us about our thoughts. Mr. Jackson, is there anything you would like to say before we?
Oh yeah. What's your
Oh,
thought?
that was good.
Thank you, Tony.
He wants me
Thank
to
you.
leave a thought. I was getting there.
Oh.
I was getting there. Okay. And my thought is to always mind your mind. Think about what you think about. When those thoughts come in your mind that you cannot control, you don't know where they came from. Like Sheffield said, you can denounce it, you can cast it down, But what I do, I pay attention to my thoughts. And I ask myself the question, why did you think that thought? What's going on? Thought, where did you come from? Because I want to always know the source of my thoughts. When I can source my thoughts, guess what? I can deal with that source. For example, if my thoughts are coming from what I'm looking at on TV, I don't do a whole lot of looking at TV no more. If my thoughts are coming to what the different conversations, I'm changing the people. I said my prayer this year was, Lord, change my circle and my circumstances, because I noticed that my circle was like weights. We weren't talking the same language. We weren't having the same direction. We weren't thinking the same thoughts, and my life started to feel weighty, right? So I had to take off the shackle. I had to kick the shackles off my feet, which is take the shackles off my feet so I can dance. So now that I'm dancing with my thoughts. When I have those thoughts, I'm cool with my thoughts. I do examine them, but when I'm able to identify the source, then I can do something different. I'm reading different books. I'm talking to different types of people. I surround myself with like-minded people, and then guess what? Those crazy negative thoughts, they don't come as often.
Right.
Now I have thoughts and ideas that's going to take me to that next level, that place of purpose. Now I'm not sleeping, because my thoughts are thoughts of life. They're thoughts of truth. They're thoughts, and I'm so excited about this next chapter of my life.
Amen.
And so that has been this game called Life with Coach PBJ, and Mr. Tony Jackson is waving his hand. What would you like to say, Mr. Jackson?
I just wanted to give LA and Brother Sheffield an opportunity to promote what they're doing.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Tony. Y'all could have did that.
You go first.
Do we go
Okay.
first?
This $1 billion business. Talk about it. Talk about it.
I actually have birthed a clothing line called Adesua Activewear. It is an activewear, athleisure clothing line, and it's absolutely dynamic.
And she will start posting it on her Facebook. She
I
will put her business links to social media.
I will.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
What I'm doing is a spiritual life coach.
Mhm.
Just Be It is the acronym of what we do. We want people to get in the place of being righteous, also understanding their true identity, their spiritual being, and then get to the it factor. The it is to identify your truth, right? And once you identify your truth and you just be it, then you stop following people. You stop doing everything everybody else is doing. You become very creative. And so that's what we do. We speak to people from the spirit to the heart. I'm the heart specialist. Spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. Get everything aligned so you can be free.
Love that.
Get your information.
Yes, my website information is iamcoachsamuel.com or justbeit.com. iamcoachsamuel.com, justbeit.com.
And my Instagram is Adesua-activewear.
Please spell that.
Adesua is spelled ADESUWAH. Then there's a line, and then there's activewear.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Eddie Sheffield, like I said, he is my coach. We coach each other most of the time, but he be coaching me most of the time. We do a lot of couples coaching. We love doing couple coaches. We do a lot of premarital coaching. And we just love working together. We just, so we shine. I thank you. I thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Sheena. You're welcome. He'll be back on the 17th. We'll be talking about matters of the mind. We're going to talk about the spirit. We're going to talk about that heart work then. So you guys join us. Thank you for joining us. Make it a great night. This thing called Life with Coach PBJ. All right.
Thank you.